Kathy Fitzmaurice. I'm the Customer Service and Training Manager for the Office of Entrepreneurial Education. I will be hosting today's program, Business Valuation, presented by Alexis Mokler, Library Information Specialist. Before we get started, I'd like to make sure everyone can hear me. Please raise your computer hand if you can. You can, if you can't hear me, just type in the chat box. At this point, all attendee microphones and telephones are muted to eliminate background noise during the presentation. Alexis will take questions as we go. To ask a question, either type it into the control panel or raise your hand and I'll unmute your microphone. Today's session is being recorded and will be available through WebMQS in the Shared Resources section. Let's get started. Welcome, Alexis.
Thanks, Kathy. Good morning, everyone, friends, colleagues, and strangers. For those of you who don't know, my name is Alexis Mokler, and I am a Library Information Specialist for the Research Network. One of the aspects of my job is user education, and we at the Research Network have started providing webinars on research topics and research sources. I'm always looking for ideas on future webinars, so please email me, call me, text me if there's anything that you would like to know more about. Originally, Walter Reed and I, Walter, a business advisor from our Farmingdale Center, were going to present together. But last week, Walter attended a presentation at the ASBDC National Conference titled Valuation of a Closely Held Business by Peter Pappas, a former business advisor with the Connecticut SBDC. Walter and Peter decided to modify Peter's original presentation. Therefore, we decided to split the webinar into two parts. Today, I will discuss definitions, multiples, and resources, while on October 2nd, Walter and Peter will present on the actual process of business valuation. As a heads up, I am doing this webinar at my desk today due to technical difficulties, which happen to all of us. So if you hear any background noises or, well, mostly just background noises, I do apologize in advance. So here we go. First off, what is a business valuation? This is an incredibly complex definition, of course, from Wikipedia, but for the most part, business valuation is the process of valuing a business either to buy, sell, for curiosity purposes. There are many factors that are taken into consideration, and it is an incredibly complex process. So how's the market, though, for business valuation right now? Well, it's finally a seller's market, which will be good for 50% of your valuation clients. The other half, of course, being the buyers. For this year only, in 2013, the market is finally starting to look good for sellers. The previous 5 years or so have been a buyer's market, mostly due to the recession. But 2013 has seen a change in the tides, mostly due to the overall financial health of small companies. So valuation, I mentioned that there are a lot of factors. Here are some of them. Company-controlled factors that influence a business's valuation. Now, again, this is to show the complexity. I'm not going to go over all of these because that would bore even me. But there are dozens and dozens of factors that need to be taken into consideration. Now, some of the things that I take into consideration when I'm doing research for business valuation is, are we talking about products or services? Are there clients or partners? Are there any intangible assets, which I'll touch on more in a little bit? Is it a physical? Is it a mobile? Or is it an internet business? Is it a brand new company, industry, or product? Now you as a business advisor are going to focus on other factors than I might be focusing on, like market value or balance sheets, or the incredibly and absolutely foreign concept to me called orderly disposition premise of business value. Please don't ask me to define it. There are also external factors, and I won't go into this much either. Some of these slides are really, the purpose behind them is that once it is uploaded on MQS, you can have the opportunity of downloading it and having it for either your clients to look at or yourself to look at. Now, because business valuation is incredibly complex and there are very specific terminology to it, I looked for a glossary. Even if you're an old pro at this, it can't hurt to have these sort of resources at your fingertips, even if it's just for your clients. This is the best glossary I could find, which is provided by Value Adder, a site that I do go to a lot for business valuation tools. So what does a glossary provide? Well, it defines the terms. It gives you options of approaches, different ways that you can value the business, which I'll also get into a little bit later, and explanations. What do these methods mean? What do these approaches mean? What do we mean when we say the market value versus goodwill value versus intent asset? You know, there's just, I find this easy to help me figure out what's going on when I'm doing research on business valuation. This is a partial list of the definitions that are provided on Value Adder website. Just a partial list. This is just, again, to point out how complex it is. I wanted to touch on some of the things that really stick out for me when I'm doing research, and for you guys to consider if you're just starting to get into the field of business valuation for your clients. Like if you're a new advisor who's never really done business valuation before, or even if you are a seasoned advisor who hasn't done valuation in a few years. Now there are three approaches: income, asset, and market. According to Walter, 90% of valuations are asset and earning based, with industry multiples used to figure out what can be projected for the future. Now, business valuation rules of thumbs. It's a set of formulas that you're going to use in order to value your business. Formulas don't really vary over time. Multiples do, formulas do not. We have a book here at the Research Network that is titled Rules of Thumb, and we like to provide information from that whenever we're doing research for your clients. Intangible assets. This is a big one because this is obviously an asset on a balance sheet is much easier to define than something that doesn't have a clear cash value. Some of the things you need to take into account when you're looking at intangible assets is intellectual property, goodwill, which I'll get into a little bit more, customer lists, licensing and distribution channels, and the workforce. Are they trained, certified? Are they all in the same place? Business goodwill. That part of business value over and above the value of identifiable business assets. I read a great quote yesterday that's really explained it best to me, and that was, in a well-run business, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Banks want to diminish goodwill value, according to Walter, which I guess that makes sense to me. They want high asset value and low business goodwill value. Only the problem with that is that business goodwill is one of the factors that's taken into consideration when you are looking at industry multiples and how industry multiples are created. Now, what is a multiple? A value typically expresses the factor used to multiply a business economic benefit to arrive at the business value. Industry specific, only available through a few different sources. Like I said before, they change over time while your formulas do not. We at the Research Network first always look at this publication, Small Business Valuation Formula Multiples. We have the 2012 edition. In the past, we've had older editions. So what does this give us? Well, it's pretty simple. There's no explanations. There's a little bit on that front page that I just showed you in terms of what these things mean. But you really have to know more than just what is provided here, obviously, to value a business. So I decided to pick SIC code 5411. Very random. No idea. Maybe I was hungry. It was probably because I was hungry. So on this document, there are two different types of businesses that have multiples available under this SIC industry code. This covers convenience stores and grocery stores and supermarkets, and you can look and you can tell that the multiples are different between the two, obviously, because there's a big size difference in the most part between the two. Convenience stores, on average, are much smaller than grocery stores and supermarkets. Second source I go to is First Research. You'll see us give you First Research industry profiles for almost any sort of industry overview request, business research request. But something that I really enjoy about First Research, except for the first thing I enjoy is that they're updated quarterly. In terms of the previous document, that's a yearly document. This is updated quarterly. Now, I don't know whether the multiples are going to change significantly quarter by quarter, but it does give you an idea of what another source is giving you. Now, they don't give you as much as the previous source. There's only a couple different ratios. Well, they give you more than the previous source, but the previous source is the one that is always looked at first. I do enjoy this for me because I can click on the financial ratios if I actually want to, and I can figure out what the definitions mean. Now, searching SIC code 5411 in the First Research database actually produced 3 results. We have our grocery stores and supermarkets, convenience stores and truck stops, and warehouse clubs and superstores, which is something that wasn't available in the previous resource. That's why we like checking multiple sources. You're never really sure who's going to have what kind of information. Now, these are really the only 2 sources I always look at. I try to do a Google search just to see if I can find industry multiples, articles on multiples for a specific industry, and I very rarely succeed at this. It's just not something that's out there from what I can find. This data right here is from August 2004. It was an article printed in Inc. magazine that was based on a report that was done on business valuation in 2003. Problem with that is now we're talking 10-year-old multiples. Some industries don't change, but some do. Going back to the first document, I'm going to show you a couple examples of multiples changing over time. This is the small business valuation formula multiples for 2006. If you notice down here, we have convenience stores and grocery stores and supermarkets, still the same SIC, easy to compare over time. Now let's just look at the first column. Convenience is 0.18, grocery stores is 0.15. Now for 2012, we have 0.20 and 0.15. Grocery stores and supermarkets didn't change in that category. Convenience stores did. Again, second category, both went up to 0.31. Third category, both went up again. Fourth category, one went up and one went down. You can see that there are changes over time to the multiples. Again, not the formulas, but the multiples. Pay special attention also in multiple changes over time for industries that are changing rapidly, whether they're growing or shrinking. For example, technology versus cobblers. I guess that would be a big example of a difference. Now if you look here, 2006, 0.50, 0.95, 0.62, 1.10, 2.72, 3.13, 2.52, 3.02. First half went up, second half went down. I honestly can't explain to you what these things mean. I truly don't know. But I am aware enough to realize that the change in numbers is something that is going to significantly influence how you as a business advisor help your client value a business. Now, what if you want to get some of these resources for yourself? Well, most of these resources are available, of course, for a fee. Small business valuation formula multiples is relatively inexpensive. It's only $79. Now, it would really be up to your center. Do you need these things for your own center? I don't really think so. But is it something to consider if you, I mean, I don't know if this is a good example or if it's even true, but I don't know whether because of Hurricane Sandy, businesses that are more internet-based may be being sold because the people didn't have access to handle all of the software and the upkeep, and I don't know. I'm making this up off the top of my head. It's just something to consider in terms of whether or not your center might want to purchase it. Now, First Research is the second place I showed you. Now, First Research is a one-year license for $1,900. So that's probably not something that you guys are going to want to do. But we did. We have it. So you can just call us. Now, I really want to stress, though, that both of these documents together are not going to cover every industry that is out there. It's just not possible. There are certain industries that aren't big enough for multiples, or can't be defined that easily, or are brand new, or have changed over time. There's just lots of different things that make it so that you may not be able to get multiples for all SIC or NAICS codes. Now, these are some business valuation resources that we have available here at the Research Network. We have the Small Business Valuation book, which was published in 1994, but is just a practical application of how to value a business for an easy-to-read format for your clients. Handbook of Business Valuation. Again, this is more of a bigger tome, but this is a resource that we have. Handbook of Small Business Valuation Formulas and the all-important rules of thumb. We have that. And then, of course, we have the two sources for the multiples themselves, the Small Business Valuation Formula Multiples and First Research. If your center is interested in purchasing your own business valuation resources, it is important to make sure that the resources come from a reliable source. Look at the publisher of the book to determine its reliability.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Webinars Made Easy.
Respectable publishers. Two of the publishers that I found multiple times in the list. Also, look at the ratings, look at the reviews for the publication. How many people have rated the book? How many stars does it get? What are people saying in the comment section below? And if you have any doubt, give us a call. Maybe we know, oh, not maybe, we definitely know different ways that we can look into whether or not what you're interested in buying is something that we think can really help you out and is a worthwhile investment. Now, for you guys or for your clients, there's some great online business valuation resources out there. Business Valuation Resource, bvresources.com, had lots of different articles. Economic Outlook. Now, again, these things probably won't have multiples, but they'll cover so much more than that. There's an intellectual property resource center. If your client's business has lots of intellectual property or patents, maybe you could go here and find out some more specific data for that. Healthcare resource for healthcare industries. How is this changing? How are we valuing healthcares? What are the changes over time? bvresources.com also has another glossary. I just wanted to share this with you because maybe there are things in the bvresources.com that are not in the value adder glossary that I showed you guys before. These definitions don't seem as in-depth per se as the value adders were, but it's another option. It can't hurt. Inc.com was another great resource. I found the 2004 document that was the business multiples, the valuation multiples was from Inc.com. But Inc.com is also the website that gave me the 2013 update. I was able to find a report from 2010. It's right at the bottom there, the 2010 Business Valuation Guide, that while maybe the trends weren't quite the same in business valuation, did give me an idea of the history of business valuation and whether or not it was a good time to sell. That's what these articles do. They tell you, is this a good time to sell? Is this a good time to buy? What are people buying? Well, people are buying tech. And people are buying, obviously, companies that have lots of assets and income. A lot of times global markets are now becoming, somebody from China might want to buy your business in terms of having an arm for their business in the United States that does the same thing that they do as China. So these are things that are the best factors for buying or selling a business right now. Other businesses are really hard. Construction. I have a friend who's trying to sell a construction business. He has put it on the market and taken it off and put it back on, and there's no even offers. So it's one of those things where he'll probably just end up closing it. Other businesses, they're going to sell in a heartbeat. People are going to want to buy it. Technology, something really cool, innovative that's going to save the world. Oh yeah, of course they're going to buy it. Google. You've got some great software that they just really, really want. Yeah, they're going to buy it. Of course they are. They can afford to. So, and of course, valueadder.com. This is the one I showed you first. This is great. They have software available that maybe you guys would look into buying, or maybe you have a client who's looking into buying lots of smaller businesses to bring them into their company and to make their own company bigger. Maybe they want the software to purchase themselves. Are they an owner? Are they a buyer? Are they you, the professional? Would you like to take a tour? And that's the end of my webinar. It's a little shorter than it was originally planned and advertised as being, but like I said earlier, Walter is going to do the second half of the webinar on October 2nd at 10 a.m. where he does the practicality of applying the multiples and the formulas and the approaches and the models, the things that you as the business advisor are going to be doing with your client, things that never done, probably never will do. Do we have any questions? I'm going to take that as a no.
If anyone does have questions, I'm sorry, Alexis. If anyone has questions, you can type them in, or you can ask them later on too.
Or you can call me. You can email me. You can. Well, that's the main ones. Call and email. There's really not any other ones. Like I said, I'm going to put this webinar on MQS at some point today, and 2 weeks from now, you will learn how to apply the definitions and the processes to the actual process. Well, thanks everyone for attending. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and praise, I am always more than willing to speak with you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alexis. Everybody have a great day.